Welcome to Backstage with Richard Ridge. My guest is one of Broadway's favorites. You know her from such musicals as Sunset Boulevard, Chicago, Kiss Me Kate, The Wedding Singer, Rock of Ages, and Matilda, and from numerous TV roles. And now she is wowing audiences in Stephen Sondheim's classic musical review, Side by Side by Sondheim, at the Repertory Theatre of St. Louis, which is one of the country's most renowned regional theaters, producing celebrated productions for over 50 years. Under the direction of Reggie D. White, the production will run through February 19th. Please welcome my friend, Amy Spanger.
Hello. I'm so happy to be here with you, Richie.
Oh, you have no idea. First off, how are you and where are you?
I'm great. I'm so good. I'm in the Midwest. I'm in St. Louis, Missouri. I'm at the Rep Theater, which I've never performed at. Loving it here. I love the people. I love the cast, the creatives, the artistic director. I love everything about it, and I love Sondheim.
Well, let's get into this. Congratulations on Side by Side by Sondheim. How excited are you to be doing this?
I'm loving it. I've never done a Sondheim show before in my life. I got really close a couple of times, but I didn't get it. It's between me and Carrie O'Malley for the original revival of Into the Woods, and she got it. It's fine. Reggie called me. Reggie D. White is the director. He's my friend. He called me like right before the holidays and said, what are you doing in January? And I was like, nothing right now. And he said, well, I'm offering you this part in Side by Side Sondheim. And I was like, I'm there. I'm totally there. And it's been just like a whirlwind of learning and creating and just being wildly creative, in the under the umbrella of the brilliant Sondheim.
Okay, so what is it like living in the words and the music of Stephen Sondheim?
I mean, I don't know if better care has ever been taken with creating music for actors. I don't know if there's anyone better than Sondheim, frankly. I think he might be the best one that we have. I get to sing Another 100 People. I get to sing Losing My Mind, which I'm basically like losing my mind every night, touching the flame. And in order to prepare for that, I went on YouTube. I went down like a rabbit hole of watching Imelda Staunton and Bernadette Peters. I saw her do that live in Follies, the most recent revival, because Brian Shepard, my husband, was in that revival. And I just was like mesmerized by her beauty and her vulnerability. And of course, I watched Marin Mazzie, my dear departed friend, sing that song. And I just feel honored that I get to sing that song. But Brian, my husband, bought me this book, Finishing the Hat, right after I got the job. And it's Sondheim sort of breaking down, how he wrote each song and like his inspiration and how some songs were like didn't make it into a show. And so with each song that I learned, I would go into the book and sort of get like tidbits about each song. And Losing My Mind, basically he mentions that it's basically like a direct ripoff of Gershwin's The Man I Love. He wanted to write that song. So he like ripped it off. I feel incredibly honored that I get to perform his work.
Okay, so what have been the easiest or easier Sondheim songs for you to learn, and what were the most challenging for you to learn?
Well, I think the song Can That Boy Foxtrot, are you familiar?
Oh, yes.
And
Follies, you can see Follies behind me. I love this
yeah,
show. Well,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I knew nothing about it. And it was a cut song from Follies. And it's kind of in the book, Sondheim talks about how it's like a single entendre song. So it's like talks about this grocery clerk who's like not too bright. He doesn't have a lot going for him, but can that boy foxtrot? And Phoenix Best and I sing it at night, and it's kind of like a showstopper, I think. I'm gonna have her come and sing it with me in concert in March, where I'm doing a Chelsea Table and Stage. So on March 13th, yeah, I'm gonna have her come and sing that with me. But that was like kind of the easiest of the songs. And the hardest, they're all really hard, frankly. None are terrifically easy. That's what's so like wonderfully gratifying about it when you like finally get it. You're like, I got it. I think Losing My Mind, because the depth of the song, you know, you're kind of like singing through a deep emotional well. So, you know, sort of finding the pitch and all of that was I was trying to, you know, I was like crying through it. And then Trayvon Griffith would come over and be like, could you like maybe think about like placing? And I was like, but I'm crying, you know. So but we figured it out. And yeah, I think that was kind of like the most difficult one for me. And also, you know, just paying homage to the weight of that song. I really wanted to get it right.
Well, let's talk about your musical director, because I mean, I love this because it's two pianos, but
Yeah.
it's beautifully orchestrated with the two of them. So what was it like working with him, finding your way in? And then talk about your brilliant director, Reggie D. White, who's making his debut as associate artistic director here at St. Louis Rep.
Yeah. Well, Trey, the MD, he is a very young man and he had never worked on Sondheim either. Actually, like many of us, I don't think any of us had worked on Sondheim. So we were all like newbies. We were all kind of like figuring it out together. Um, and Trey is brilliant, just a brilliant musical genius man. But comes from wanted to kind of like have like a fresh, young, youthful take on some of the like older, dustier, you know, Sondheim songs. So I feel like we've breathed kind of like fresh life into them, like via Trey's direction. Yeah. And Reggie, who I worked with, we were at the O'Neill together, working on a rock musical like 5 years ago. I played his mom. I would have been a very young woman giving birth to him, but and yeah, so I admired him as an actor, and you know, and we stayed friends. And so this is the first time I'm working with him as a director, and he's like a natural. He's really so wonderful. He's an actor's director, and he really pushed us to, you know, find the intention, find the character, like drop into the character in every song, which is very difficult in a review, you know, to kind of like wrap your mouth around it, wrap your heart around it every time. But he insisted on that. So I feel like he got like a really great result out of each one of us.
See, that's what I love about reviews, and especially this review, because I remember seeing this. I first saw this in London on a school trip, and then I got to see it when it came to Broadway with all the numerous people who replaced people like the Larry Kurtz and, you know, Kukla, Fran, and Ollie. I mean, there was, you know, Cyril Richard, so many wonderful things. But Sondheim's songs are all complete stories, all of his songs, you know?
Yeah.
So what have you enjoyed the most about being a part of a review as opposed to a book show? Because I remember reading Reggie saying something, saying, oh my God, you know, in a review, well, what is the book? You know, so I'm sure you had conversations like that with him. So what do you love the most about doing review?
Well, you kind of have to find your own through line, I think. And my through line is that I'm still here. That I've, and there's a wonderful slideshow at the end of the show that Renty created with projections designer Camilla Tari. Am I pronouncing her name correctly? That, it's Phoenix Fest sings I'm Still Here, and we're all sitting looking up stage, and it's sort of like called the funeral section, and it starts with me singing Losing My Mind and sort of like losing my mind a little bit, and then Phoenix comes out and sings, and there's a slideshow, and so it's like through Sondheim's life, and there's like a really old picture of New York, and she's singing, I'm still here, I'm still here, I'm still here. And it's like at the very end, it's Sondheim and the dates of his life. And the first time I saw it, I was like, oh, for Sondheim, but for me and for like, actors, artists who have stood the test of time and hung in there in New York, and for the ups and the downs, and the fruitful days and the not fruitful days, and because I can't really do anything else, so it's sort of my through line is that I'm still here. And I feel like Sondheim doesn't know it, but he wrote that song.
I love that. Now let's talk about
sorry, this delay.
But no, I love that, because people, that's one of my favorite songs too. And I'm Still Here, everyone who I've spoken to has sung that song, said it's one of the hardest songs to sing, because all the verses sort of start off da-da-dun, da-da-dun, and you're like, wait, did I sing that verse already? Did I get lost in the emotion of this song, right?
Yeah, totally. No, it's difficult, and it's very long. Yeah. Very long, but like, oh God, I get to sit on stage and watch the projections, and like New York and Sondheim, and like sort of like think about my own life, and it's a very rewarding moment for me.
Now, so there's 4 of you, and then there's a narrator. So there's 5 of you on stage with the 2 dueling pianists. Talk about your company of being all in this together, learning Sondheim together and going through this nightly, what it means to you.
Yeah. So I'm woman 2, Phoenix Best, has been on Broadway in The Color Purple and Dear Evan Hansen, and I think another show which I'm forgetting, but she plays woman 1, and then Paul He-Sang Miller is the other man, and Saidu Sinla is the man as well, and then Alan Knoll is the narrator. He's a local like St. Louis actor, very, very funny guy. So it's very intimate, we we live about 15 or 20 minutes away from the theater, and there's an SUV designated for our cast, so we all drive together and we all go home together, so we're all like very tight, and we'll kind of like go over the show or lyrics, or on our way in, and sort of discuss like how it went on our way back, and it's been great. They're all so wonderfully talented, and feel lucky to know them and to perform with them. It's a really wonderful piece.
You have an incredible choreographer too, because I see some photos from the show with tambourines. I'm a big tambourine fan, so I was wondering, what's it been like working with your choreographer on this?
Yeah, Heather Beal, she's wonderful. She's a local, and I think she had 6 days to work with us, and she like just wrung everything she could wring out of us. The first day she said, are any of you dancers? And 3 of us were like, yeah. And then she just, so we're dancing, we're moving, like Phoenix and I shared our singing room, and she's like, you've lost weight. And I'm like, you have too. We're moving a lot. But she's a wonderful, wonderful storyteller. I feel like she kind of associate directed it too, because it's all about like character, all of her movement. And the tambourines are in You Could Drive a Person Crazy, which is like one of the more difficult things that we do. Because we're moving and we're singing tight 4-part harmony. And I sing the very top. I'm like the legit soprano for some reason in the show. So I sing Maria, and I sing the soprano in Not Getting Married Today in the beginning. So it's kind of funny. I'm like, I did that when I was very young, and I'm sort of like, bringing that back out. Yeah, but she's wonderful. Heather is incredible, and I love her movement. I told her, like, come to New York, do stuff in New York. You're so wonderful.
Well, let's talk about the audience. I mean, the St. Louis Rep, they have an incredible subscription series here at the theater. The theater looks beautiful. I have seen all these pictures. Let's talk about the audience's reaction, like after you've spoken to them after a performance of Side by Side by Sondheim, and how much joy you're bringing to audiences.
Yeah, I think they're really loving it. They're the narration is about how Sondheim came to write these songs, and how, sort of like the course of his career. And he wrote a side story under like a nom de plume. Did you know that? Yeah, you knew that. I didn't know that. And they're just like kind of wrapped for the whole thing. And the songs are very wordy, and they are story songs, so you have to kind of be a good listener, and they are all just like really, really with us and laughing at the right places. And I think they're getting like a good education about Sondheim.
What is one of your favorite numbers that you watch someone else do in the show that you don't do?
I think there's like one of the cutting room floor songs. No, not cutting room floor, but like one of the more obscure songs is I Never Do Anything Twice. Do you know that song? You know everything, Richie.
Who does it in the show? Who does it?
Phoenix does that in the show. And she's like got a feather boa and like a chaise lounge, and it's like a whole thing. And there's like a lot of very, very sexy movement. And she's wearing like a body stocking, and it's great. It's wonderful. Yeah. So I admire that whole thing. She's great.
Because the great Julie Wilson, the cabaret artist, used to do that in her show all the time. Now that you're going to be obsessed with Sondheim, you have to look back at her. She's got CDs like
Okay.
Julie Wilson sings Sondheim that it's going to blow your mind.
Okay. I will for sure. Thank you.
Now, I want to ask you about your upcoming show at Chelsea Table and Stage, which I love. Have you played there before?
I have done other people's shows there before, but I've never done my own solo show. So and this show is called Amy Spanger and Friends. And so I'm gonna have like a lot of people come and do duets with me.
I have goosebumps already, just so you know, from the bottom of my feet to the top of my head. You are going to
Aww.
have the time of your life there. What is the dates there again? What's the date again at Chelsea Table and Stage?
March 13th, Monday, 7 p.m.
I'm going to be there, just so you know. I'm going to be there
You're gonna come?
in your room.
Yay.
Oh, of course I'm going to come. Now, listen, you have given us so many glorious performances on Broadway in such shows, as I mentioned earlier, Sunset Boulevard, Chicago, Kiss Me Kate, The Wedding Singer, Rock of Ages, Matilda, Elf the Musical. I mean, you created Susan in Jonathan Larson's Tick, Tick, Boom. I mean, is there a dream role from a classic Broadway musical that you would like to take on someday?
Audrey and Little Shop of Horrors. I really, it's like it's in my bones. It's in my bones. Yeah. So
Had,
If anyone,
yeah, had you done her before?
never, I've never played her before. Yeah, yeah, she's the one.
Well, to me, that's a no-brainer. Like I said, producer of the Little Shop of Horrors. It's still running here in New York.
I'm a Bale.
Amy Spanger is available. You'd be a perfect Audrey in Little Shop of Horrors.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think that's really, really great. You're also a renowned acting and vocal coach. What do you enjoy the most about teaching?
Um, I love it when a student has a breakthrough. If someone can figure something out and they're blocked, and I give them some little tool that helps them get to the next level. It's wonderful. And helping young people get into school. I've helped a few people get into like NYU, and it's really gratifying, and sort of starting to work with someone and seeing that maybe they have that thing that will take them all the way. I'm working with several students that I feel strongly about that they will be our like future Broadway stars.
Okay, Broadway debuts are really important because they only happen once. And I try to tell everybody when they take their bow that night, I always tell them, don't make it technical, make it from your heart, because that's something you're never going to forget. Talk about your Broadway debut and how magical was it for you, and what do you remember about it?
I debuted in Sunset Boulevard with the unbelievable Betty Buckley playing Norma Desmond. And there are a few things I remember. I was working at McHale's bar when I booked the job. And so, the stagehands would come in after the show, or like even during the show, and have like a beer. And so when I started working there, I remember seeing a stagehand who's like a regular at McHale's, and he was like, "What are you doing here?" And it's like, "I work here now." It's like, "What? You're an actress?" It's like, "Yeah." So that happened. And then I remember on my first night in, Betty Buckley, the character Norma Desmond sings, "It's as if I never said goodbye." And we, like, every single person in the cast is on stage with Norma, and we all kind of like soft freeze. And I remember looking out into the audience and sort of being like, and then looking over at Betty in the light and thinking, I want to be her someday. I want to be in that light. And I did, and I am.
You have stopped so many shows, like show-stopping moments, and all the shows you have done from Chicago, Kiss Me Kate. I mean, I remember watching you in Kiss Me Kate. There was like, these 4-minute, clappings at the end of these numbers when you would just up in one and dance through these things. And, it's got to be the most incredible feeling. Did you miss it? Like during the pandemic, you and your husband, I mean, was it a crazy time for you two? Because it was for me, as it was for everybody else.
Of course. Yeah, it was rough. It was really rough. Like we really miss performing. And I mean, I did like a couple of play readings like via Zoom, you know what I mean? And it felt like really good to be acting, and I think like maybe like 6 or 7 people like watched it. But I was like, we're giving art to people. Yeah, and my mom passed away at the very beginning of the pandemic too. So we were sort of like, I was grieving, and I felt really bad because Brian was like in the apartment with a grieving woman, and like we couldn't really go anywhere. And I was like, I'm sorry, like you have to be with me right now. And he was like, no, no, no. So it was kind of like twofold, like difficult. But yeah, we just had faith that it would get better, and it's getting better. And Brian worked on a new thing recently. He's been working on Joy the musical, and I've done a couple of workshops, and now Side by Side by Sondheim, and like a full scale production. It's the first one I've done in a very long time, and I'm so grateful.
So my final question is, what are you enjoying the most? about doing side by Sondheim, this beautiful musical review in front of a live audience again?
I think the idea of bringing Sondheim to people who don't know Sondheim, aren't aware of Sondheim, and like educating them in that way, and just breathing life into these songs is it's life affirming. It's wonderful. Yeah.
Well, it's great. Now, once again, tell our audience tonight you're going to be at Chelsea Table and Stage.
Oh, thank you, Richie. I'm going to be at Chelsea Table and Stage March 13th, Monday, March 13th at 7 p.m. Come.
So just Google that, get your tickets. It's a beautiful nightclub. She's bringing all of her friends there, which is going to be great, from Broadway and from St. Louis Rep. I cannot wait. So once again, Amy Spanger is appearing at the St. Louis Rep in Side by Sondheim now through February 19th. For tickets, visit repstl.org. That stands for repstlouis.org. Amy, thanks for joining me again today.
Oh, thank you, Richie. Thank you. It's so good to see you.
Everybody, we'll see you at the theater, and we'll also see you at Chelsea Table and Stage. Take care, everybody. Stay well.